Love your enemies and turn the other cheek. That's about as outrageous, confusing, and difficult as they come.
Yeah, and it almost kind of stands juxtaposed to the previous one. But we know Jesus was known, I mean, that's a statement that Jesus said that people probably attribute to him more than any other, turn the other cheek, and this idea that we should love our enemies and we should turn the other cheek. And again, I think it brings up the issue of, are we supposed to be a doormat? Can we defend ourselves? Can we defend our faith? All that stuff. And I've really had to wrestle with this one recently as it relates to, I moved into a house in January, and we've had some real challenges with our HOA. I don't know if any of you have testimonies on that, but we just had to, I'll ignore the applause.
I think we hit a nerve.
I think the HOA just got an applause then.
They maybe did, yeah.
But appropriate.
So yeah, I've struggled, and it's been real. It's been like issues that were unclear, and it's cost us a lot of money, and just it's been a headache for us. And so I sat down and I wrote an email to the president of the HOA, and it felt good to type out this email. I mean, it was like the pleasure of the Lord was on me as I was typing. And so I showed it to Lisa, and she was like, "Are you even a Christian? Like, how could you write this? No, you're not sending this." And so I said, "All right, I'll sleep on it. I'll take some time and send it later." And that night we went on a date night, and we ended up stopping by another friend in the neighborhood's house. And we walk in, they're having kind of some people over, and sure enough, at the house is the president of the HOA, whom I was getting ready to send this email to. And so we had the chance to spend, about an hour or so just in a social setting with this individual. Yes, it was awkward. But what happened, I got home that night, and I was like, oh, shoot, Lisa, I can't send this email. And what happened is I got to see this individual who had always been to me this evil antagonist, president of the HOA, and I got to see him through a little bit of a different lens, and this was a friend of some fellow Seacoasters, Christ followers, whom they love, whom they've been pouring into, investing in, and inviting him to come to church with them. And it just changed my perspective, and it was like, you know what? This little battle that I'm fighting, this little challenge that we're having, is probably not worth me, fighting for revenge and fighting for what's mine. And so it was just an eye-opener for me, and realized that some things we need to stand up for. Yeah. Other things, especially when it's our pride or our own deal, we just need to let God be God and turn the other cheek and allow him to. We're part of a bigger deal. Life isn't just about our own issues. We're part of a kingdom that's greater than the here and now. And if me fighting for what I need or my wrong to be righted today is going to undermine maybe a kingdom deal that's at work and God's work in someone's life, I need to just kind of set that aside and be willing to turn the other cheek. And it's hard. I still have the email in my drafts, and I'm not saying I'm not going to send it, but for now I'm not. So,
Josh, one of the things you touched on that I think is really important with this is that you were able to spend an hour with him and actually get to know him as a person.
Yeah.
And one of the things that is so hard about this is it's almost impossible to love your enemies if they stay impersonal strangers. And one of the places where that's just so difficult is online. Most of the people that we interact with on social media, we never meet. We never see a picture of them or their kids. We never know anything about them other than the snarky comments that they send and the ones we send back to them. And it's very easy if you can treat someone as not a person, it becomes very easy to fire off something and not worry about the consequences. You don't see their face when they read that. You don't know what's going through their minds when they read that. And if you can be intentional about making them real people to you, really being intentional about, they have lives and families who love them, and because as long as you keep them impersonal, you're never going to love them.
Yeah.
I think I think this is a big issue. When Jesus was teaching this, it was totally countercultural. Totally. Because they're living in an honor culture. Okay? Honor culture means you mess with me, I mess with you to a greater degree. In fact, in the Old Testament, some of us have problems with the concept of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. I mean, what about that? And actually, God was making laws that were equitable because the honor culture they lived in was you take my eye, I take your eye, your wife's eye, and I kill all your kids. And he says, no, we can't do that. And then, so that's the law that they're living under. And then Jesus comes and he says, let me take it a step further. Okay, turn the other cheek. And so I think what he's saying is, somebody's got to stop the cycle. If you don't stop the cycle of retribution, it's just going to keep rolling and rolling and rolling. And Jack, what you're saying about the internet, boy, I'm fired up about that right now, because I think we as Christians have got to be countercultural in how we handle social media. I read a story the other day about a Christian leader, and I don't know the guy, but runs a large organization. There were people, Christians, that worked for him, felt like he wasn't doing the right things and some stuff, and so he probably wasn't a great guy. I don't know, may have been a jerk, who knows. But what they did was they got Twitter accounts that were anonymous and started nailing it out here. And I'm thinking, really, is that what Jesus would do? Is that what you see? Anonymous is to me, anonymous is synonymous with cowardly. Okay, I remember a couple of years ago, whatever, we did a service that irritated some people, and so the newspaper ran a story on it, and there were like 400 comments on this thing in the local newspaper. Actually, if you looked at it, it was a string of about 7 people having a conversation. And it was anonymous because our newspaper allowed anonymous comments. And it was vicious and so untrue, totally untrue and vicious. You could disagree with the service, but it got into, yours truly, some things that were absolutely untrue, people in church, all this kind of stuff. And so shortly after that, the newspaper made you, if you're going to do comments, you've got to go through your Facebook account. So your name has to be on it. So consequently, in our newspaper, there are like 3 or 4 comments to every article now, which is okay. And if you have disagreements, that's fine. Put your name on it so that we can talk about it. And I think as Christians, we can't be conformed into the world. We've got to be where we stand out. We're different. We do things differently. And I think this is one of the ways that we can do that.